When Diana Sterling became Miami's top luxury real estate agent, clients trusted her to find their dream homes. But when greed and desperation consumed her, she began staging home invasions and murders to create motivated sellers, manipulating property values while eliminating anyone who discovered her deadly scheme. Before we get to this wonderful story, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Now let's get back to the story. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the marble floors of the oceanfront penthouse as Diana Sterling prepared for what would become the most dangerous showing of her real estate career. At 38 years old, Diana had established herself as Miami's premier luxury property specialist, consistently ranking as the top-selling agent in Coral Gables with annual sales exceeding $50 million, and a client roster that included celebrities, international investors, and tech billionaires seeking prestigious waterfront estates. Diana's success in the ultra-competitive Miami luxury market had been built on her exceptional ability to match discerning clients with exclusive properties that perfectly reflected their lifestyle aspirations and investment goals. Her portfolio featured some of South Florida's most spectacular homes, including beachfront mansions on Key Biscayne, historic estates in Coconut Grove, and modern architectural masterpieces in Star Island that commanded prices ranging from $5 to $50 million. The Sterling Realty office on Miracle Mile reflected Diana's sophisticated taste and commitment to excellence, featuring Italian leather furniture, original artwork by renowned Latin American artists, and floor-to-ceiling windows that offered panoramic views of Biscayne Bay. Her walls were covered with photographs of record-breaking sales, testimonials from satisfied clients, and awards from industry organizations that had recognized her innovative marketing strategies and exceptional client service. But beneath Diana's success lay a dark secret that would soon transform her real estate empire into a criminal enterprise. She had been systematically orchestrating home invasions, murders, and property manipulations to create artificial market conditions that generated enormous commissions while eliminating anyone who threatened to expose her deadly scheme. "Good afternoon, Diana," said Robert Chen, her 3 o'clock appointment and a tech entrepreneur worth approximately $80 million who was seeking to purchase a waterfront estate for his family's relocation from Silicon Valley. Robert had been referred to Diana by mutual friends who praised her knowledge of Miami's luxury market and her ability to negotiate complex, high-value transactions. "I'm excited to see the properties you've selected for today's tour." "Good afternoon, Robert," Diana replied with the confident smile that had charmed hundreds of wealthy clients over her 12-year career. "I've identified several exceptional properties that perfectly match your criteria for privacy, security, and investment potential. These are some of the most exclusive homes currently available in South Florida." Diana had been carefully studying Robert's financial situation and personal circumstances for weeks, identifying him as an ideal target for her latest criminal scheme. His substantial liquid assets, minimal ties to the local community, and plans for immediate occupancy made him perfect for the type of transaction that would generate massive commissions while providing opportunities for additional criminal profits. What Robert didn't know was that Diana had been orchestrating a complex scheme involving staged home invasions and seller intimidation to artificially depress property values, allowing her to purchase homes at below-market prices before manipulating circumstances to drive prices back up for enormous profits. Diana's transformation from successful real estate agent to calculating criminal had begun 18 months earlier, when the luxury market had experienced a significant downturn that threatened her income and lifestyle. Facing mounting debts from her expensive Aventura penthouse, luxury vehicle payments, and gambling losses at offshore casinos, Diana had become desperate to maintain her appearance of success while generating the income necessary to service her financial obligations. Her first criminal scheme had involved bribing a home inspector to falsely condemn a waterfront mansion owned by elderly widow Margaret Walsh, forcing Mrs. Walsh to sell her property at a fraction of its market value to avoid costly repairs that weren't actually necessary. Diana had purchased the property through a shell company, made cosmetic improvements, and resold it 6 months later for a $3 million profit. The success of her initial fraud had convinced Diana that manipulating property sales through illegal means was both profitable and difficult to detect, especially when combined with her legitimate expertise in real estate markets and property valuation. Over the past year, Diana had escalated her criminal activities to include orchestrating violent home invasions designed to terrorize property owners into accepting below-market offers while eliminating potential witnesses who might expose her schemes. "Diana, I need to discuss some concerns about recent property transactions in your portfolio," said Detective Maria Rodriguez of the Miami-Dade Police Department's Financial Crimes Division, as she entered Diana's office carrying a thick file of investigation materials. Detective Rodriguez had been conducting a discreet inquiry into suspicious patterns of property crimes and sales that appeared to be connected to Diana's real estate business. "Of course, Detective Rodriguez," Diana replied, though she felt a familiar surge of anxiety whenever law enforcement showed interest in her business activities. "I'm always willing to cooperate with any investigation. Property crimes are a serious concern in the luxury market, and I want to ensure my clients feel safe and secure." Detective Rodriguez explained that her investigation involved a pattern of home invasions and violent crimes that had preceded several property sales, with victims often accepting significantly below-market offers immediately after experiencing traumatic incidents at their homes. "We're particularly interested in cases where real estate agents may have had advanced knowledge of crimes against property owners or may have benefited financially from the timing of these incidents." The detective's description of her investigation was focused on exactly the type of criminal activity that Diana had been orchestrating, creating an immediate threat that would require careful management to avoid exposure. "Detective Rodriguez, that's very concerning information," Diana said, her mind racing through possible explanations for police interest in property crimes connected to her sales. The luxury real estate market does unfortunately attract criminal attention due to the wealth of property owners and the valuable assets typically found in high-end homes. Rodriguez consulted her notes about specific cases where violent crimes had been followed by quick property sales at unusually low prices. "I'm particularly interested in the Margaret Walsh property that you handled last year. Mrs. Walsh reported a terrifying home invasion just days before accepting your client's offer, which was 30% below the property's assessed value." The detective's specific mention of Margaret Walsh's case confirmed Diana's fears that law enforcement had identified patterns connecting violent crimes to her property transactions, potentially exposing her entire criminal operation. Diana's method of orchestrating property crimes had become increasingly sophisticated as she developed relationships with criminal associates who could execute home invasions and intimidation campaigns on her behalf. Over the past 6 months, Diana had been working with a crew of professional criminals led by Victor Petrov, a former military contractor who specialized in home invasions targeting wealthy families. The crew would conduct surveillance of properties Diana had identified as targets, then execute carefully planned invasions designed to terrorize owners without causing damage that would reduce property values. The psychological trauma from these incidents invariably led property owners to seek immediate sales, often accepting the first reasonable offer they received, rather than enduring the stress of extended marketing periods. Diana would then arrange for straw buyers to purchase properties at discounted prices before reselling them at market rates once the criminal incidents had been forgotten. Her most profitable scheme had involved the oceanfront estate of technology executive James Morrison, whose family had been held hostage during a violent home invasion that Diana had orchestrated. Morrison had sold his $15 million property for $9 million just 1 week after the incident, with Diana earning a massive commission while her criminal associates received additional payment for the successful intimidation. "Ms. Sterling, there's something else I need to tell you," Robert Chen said hesitantly during their property tour. "I've been researching some of the properties you've shown me today, and I've discovered that several had violent crimes occur immediately before they came on the market. I'm starting to wonder if there's some kind of pattern that makes these properties particularly dangerous." Diana's anxiety spiked as she realized that her carefully selected client was beginning to identify the connections between violent crimes and property sales that could expose her criminal activities. Robert's technological background and analytical skills made him particularly dangerous as a potential witness who might report his suspicions to law enforcement. Robert, violent crime is unfortunately a reality in any luxury market where criminals target wealthy property owners, Diana said carefully, while mentally reviewing her options for preventing him from pursuing his investigation further. The important thing is that these incidents were isolated events, and the properties themselves are completely safe once proper security measures are implemented. Robert wasn't satisfied with Diana's explanations, having noticed that the pattern of crimes preceding sales was too consistent to be coincidental. Diana, I've run statistical analyses on property crime data, and the correlation between violent incidents and subsequent sales in your portfolio is statistically significant. This suggests either remarkable coincidence or some kind of systematic connection. Robert's analytical approach to identifying the criminal pattern represented a serious threat to Diana's operation, as his technological expertise and methodical investigation could provide law enforcement with detailed evidence of her schemes. Robert, I think you may be overanalyzing some unfortunate coincidences, Diana said, though she was already considering whether she would need to eliminate him before he could report his findings to authorities. Let me show you some additional properties that might better meet your security concerns. The additional properties that Diana was offering to show were actually locations where she had arranged for Victor's crew to conduct a demonstration home invasion that would either kill Robert or traumatize him into silence. Her plan was to stage Robert's death as a robbery gone wrong, eliminating a dangerous witness while creating another motivated seller scenario. But Diana's plan to murder Robert was about to be complicated by the unexpected arrival of Detective Rodriguez, who had been conducting surveillance of Diana's activities as part of her ongoing investigation. Detective Rodriguez had been monitoring Diana's client meetings and property showings for several days, having developed enough evidence to suspect that the real estate agent was connected to the pattern of violent crimes preceding property sales. The detective's surveillance had revealed Diana's meetings with known criminals and her unusual behavior around properties that had experienced recent violent incidents. When Rodriguez observed Diana leading Robert Chen to a secluded waterfront property that had recently been the site of a violent home invasion, her investigative instincts warned her that Diana might be planning to harm her client to prevent him from exposing her criminal activities. "Ms. Sterling, step away from Mr. Chen immediately," Detective Rodriguez commanded as she emerged from her surveillance position with her service weapon drawn. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit home invasion, murder, and real estate fraud." Diana's reaction to her arrest was a mixture of shock and desperate attempts to maintain her professional reputation. "Detective Rodriguez, you're making a terrible mistake. I'm a licensed real estate professional with an impeccable record of client service. I would never harm a client or engage in any criminal activity." Robert Chen looked stunned as he realized how close he had come to being murdered by the woman he had trusted to help him find his dream home. His analytical investigation into the property crime patterns had not only confirmed his suspicions, but it also prevented his own death at Diana's hands. The investigation that followed Diana's arrest revealed the full scope of her criminal enterprise and the network of violent criminals she'd been coordinating to manipulate the luxury real estate market. Forensic analysis of Diana's financial records revealed extensive evidence of coordinated property crimes, illegal kickbacks from straw buyers, and systematic manipulation of property values through orchestrated violence. Her communication devices contained detailed plans for home invasions and evidence of payments to criminal associates for successful intimidation campaigns. The investigation also uncovered Diana's connections to Viktor Petrov's criminal organization, which had been responsible for numerous violent home invasions throughout South Florida. The crew had been operating under Diana's direction, targeting properties she identified as profitable for forced sales while eliminating potential witnesses who might expose their activities. Most disturbing was the discovery of Diana's detailed plans for expanding her criminal operation to include murder-for-hire services targeting wealthy property owners whose deaths would create immediate estate sale opportunities. Her victim list included several prominent Miami residents whose properties represented enormous commission potential. Diana Sterling was ultimately convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, orchestrating home invasions, real estate fraud, money laundering, and racketeering charges related to her systematic manipulation of the luxury property market. The conviction sent shockwaves through Miami's real estate community and prompted comprehensive reforms in property transaction oversight and agent licensing requirements. Several other luxury agents were investigated for similar criminal activities, leading to increased scrutiny of the entire high-end real estate industry. Detective Rodriguez received recognition for her investigative work and became a specialist in real estate-related crimes, developing new techniques for identifying criminal manipulation of property markets and protecting wealthy property owners from exploitation by unethical real estate professionals. Robert Chen's analytical investigation became crucial evidence in the prosecution's case and led to his cooperation with federal authorities in identifying additional real estate fraud schemes throughout South Florida. His technological expertise helped develop new systems for detecting unusual patterns in property crime and sales data. Victor Petrov and his criminal crew were arrested and charged with multiple counts of home invasion, assault, and conspiracy, effectively dismantling a criminal organization that had been terrorizing wealthy families throughout the Miami area. The case prompted comprehensive changes in real estate industry regulation, including enhanced background checks for agents, mandatory reporting of violent crimes affecting client properties, and new oversight procedures for high-value transactions that might involve unusual circumstances. Diana's conviction also led to increased scrutiny of property sales that occurred shortly after violent incidents, with new protocols designed to identify cases where real estate professionals might have had motives for orchestrating crimes against property owners. The luxury real estate market implemented new safety measures for agents and clients, including enhanced security procedures for property showings and mandatory reporting of suspicious activities or threats related to property transactions. 5 years after Diana's conviction, the Miami real estate industry continued to implement safeguards designed to protect property owners from exploitation by unethical agents who might abuse their positions of trust and market access. Diana's former office space was eventually converted into a non-profit organization that provided housing assistance for crime victims and domestic violence survivors, symbolically transforming a site of criminal exploitation into a resource for genuine help and protection. The families of Diana's victims established a foundation dedicated to promoting ethical practices in the real estate industry and providing support for people who had been harmed by trusted property professionals. Their advocacy efforts contributed to significant improvements in industry standards and consumer protection measures. Detective Rodriguez continued her work investigating real estate crimes while serving as an expert witness in cases involving property-related criminal conspiracies. Her expertise helped identify several other criminal operations that had been exploiting the luxury real estate market to commit various crimes against wealthy clients. The real estate agent who had promised to help clients find their dream homes had instead used her expertise to turn those dreams into nightmares. But her crimes had been exposed, and her victims had found justice through the dedication of investigators who refused to accept property crimes as random incidents. Diana Sterling's final sale had been of her own freedom, trading her criminal empire for a prison cell where she would spend the rest of her life serving her sentence for the systematic terrorization and murder of property owners who had trusted her with their most valuable assets. The empty luxury properties where Diana had staged her crimes stood as symbols of the trust that had been violated and the dreams that had been destroyed by her systematic abuse of professional relationships and client vulnerability. The real estate agent's final sale had ended in criminal conviction and life imprisonment, proving that even the most sophisticated criminal operations could be exposed when dedicated investigators and analytical clients worked together to protect innocent people from exploitation by those who would abuse their positions of trust in the luxury property market. Thank you very much for listening. Please let us know what you think of this story in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any other videos.